and let's get started. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the 30 on another Thursday. This is your host, Patrick Jackman, and we have a very special guest this evening. I've known her now, I think, for 18 years, and I've learned so much from her over those 18 years. So I am going to introduce to you, her name is Stephanie Jackman, LCSW-R MS. And she is the founder and owner of Stephanie Jackman LCSW PLLC. I think I got that right. A lot of words there, Stephanie. Welcome, Steph. Welcome to the 30.
Thanks, Pat. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. Now, you were on the first one when we started way back when in March, and now you are here on this version of the 30. So I want to welcome you in. Those of you that don't know Steph, right? She has the last name of Jackman, and she's my wonderful wife. So just wanted to introduce her to you. As I said, I've learned so much from her over the years in reference to self-care, in reference to mental health. So I'm going to introduce you to her, and then she's going to tell you a little bit about herself. So tonight we're going to be talking about self-care. So let's welcome Steph. And Steph, again, welcome on to the 30.
Tell
our viewers a little bit about you and what you do and your business.
All right. Well, it's nice to be with you all tonight. I am Stephanie Jackman. I am a mental health consultant and private practice clinician. I've been in private practice for 10 years, and I have been in the field for 17 years. We are a behavioral health private practice office where we see individuals, couples, and families from the age of 3 to 99. And as a mental health consultant, that part of our business is we help agencies, nonprofit organizations, government agencies develop and implement mental health programs for individuals within currently Monroe County, Genesee County, and Orleans County.
All right, good. So tonight we're going to talk about self-care. I know we did a session with men a couple of Saturdays ago, and that went well. And that was part of our series, Man-to-Man Conversations. So we decided to bring it and open it up to everyone. So when we talk about self-care, Steph, first and foremost, what is self-care?
So in the basic form, Pat, self-care is any activity that a person does in an effort to reduce their own personal stress and to improve their social, mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual well-being. That's self-care in a nutshell.
Now, we hear of self-care and we hear of personal care, right? Mm-hmm. Is there a difference between self-care and personal care?
Yep. So again, great question. Oftentimes you will hear self-care and personal care used interchangeably, but really they're not. Self-care is really the overarching umbrella. Personal care falls under self-care. So for example, an example of personal care would be personal hygiene,
okay.
Right? But an example of self-care would be more around what your nutrition habits look like. Are you getting 3 meals, healthy meals a day? or at least 2 healthy meals a day. Another example of self-care would be your sleeping habits. And I know I get on you about this often,
Yeah, I know.
right?
I know.
Right? So self-care is around, what are your sleeping habits? How many hours in the course of a day are you getting? So for the average adult, it shows anywhere from 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night is what the average adult needs in order to be able to function and do what they need to do productively in the course of a day.
Yeah, that's a that's a lot of hours, and you do get on me about that in terms of um, not sleeping enough, but that's how it goes, right? So let's talk about, especially during this time in the pandemic, why is self care so important during this time that we're going through for the month since March, I think? Why is uh, why is self care so important for all of us during this time?
So I would say that it's important for a couple of reasons. First reason is because this has been a traumatic time for all of us, on a national level. So life as we knew it to be um, no longer existed, and it happened pretty abruptly. So how we previously may have been taking care of ourselves from a self-care standpoint, we now may have to look at other ways to be able to do that. We may have to get creative in ways to be able to do that. In addition to that, the second point that I would make is many people are really struggling again during this time
Mm-hmm.
of the pandemic because if they are an individual that already had some type of pre existing mental health condition, being in the midst of a pandemic, being isolated from family, friends, loved ones, the possibility of unemployment, the possibility of food insecurities, housing insecurities. Anyone with a pre existing mental health condition could potentially experience increased symptoms, increased stress, and that could really just magnify symptoms of depression or anxiety or insomnia, or if a person is diagnosed with bipolar disorder, that could increase mood dysregulation. So it's really, really key in terms of during this time, really promoting one's self care.
Okay. And again, what are some of the examples of self care? I know you touched on some earlier, but give us some true examples so that our audience will fully understand what it means when we say self care. What does it look like? What should we look for? So,
Sure. So, again, the first thing I would say is proper nutrition, right? So, 2 meals a day. They say the most important meal for the day is breakfast, right? And then you want to make sure that you have some type of meal, whether it's lunch or brunch or whether it's a dinner. You want to make sure that you have that. Secondly, exercise. Getting one's body moving is so important and so significant. So during the pandemic, significant amount of time where gyms were closed.
right.
So as a result of that, people really had to get creative in terms of moving their bodies, right? Because staying at home, staying in the house, even someone like myself, I know that I have put on some pandemic poundage, right? So getting that body moving in a different way as opposed to having the opportunity for those that could go to the gym. So that may require walking in your neighborhood. That might be you getting on me doing stairs. That may be doing laps around your house. That may be doing push-ups, sit-ups in your home. Another example that I would definitely share with you is engaging in healthy leisure activities. Okay, what does that mean? Having a healthy social life and healthy leisure activities that you're interacting with other people. Now, the caveat to that, Pat, I must say, is in all the research that I've seen during this time period, one thing that has definitely went up is the consumption of alcohol,
Yeah.
right? So during this time in the pandemic, the consumption of alcohol has skyrocketed. And one thing that I just want to share is that many people will use alcohol to cope, but I'm not really sure if they realize that alcohol is a depressant. So
Got it.
we may feel good when we are consuming the alcohol, but thereafter, when we're coming down from the alcohol, or quote unquote, we've all heard the term hangover,
Mhm.
right? Well, the hangover is as a result of the alcohol being a depressant. So even in leisure activities and having healthy social relationships, it's important that we limit the consumption of alcohol because it is a depressant. We
Sure.
want to limit the consumption of any type of substances like, again, marijuana, weed. Many of us may use those devices for coping, but those aren't the best ways to be able to cope and integrating those things into our self-care plan. So those are just a couple of things that I would highlight.
Okay. And our viewers under 30, I'm talking to Stephanie Jackman. She is the founder and owner of Stephanie Jackman LCSW PLLC. If you want to ask some questions, just drop them in the comments and I'll bring them up for you. I'd like to bring one up, and this is from Angela. And let's see if we can bring that up here. Angela would like to know, Steph, what is her? So many outside factors that could increase stress and cause fear. Not sure if that's a question or if that's a comment, but what do you say to that comment?
Absolutely, Angela. There are so many outside factors that could increase one's stress during this time and cause fear. And really, what I hear you talking about is like symptoms of anxiety, right? So, a lot of uncertainty that's going on. Again, what is my kids or my grandkids' education plan going to look like? What is what's the job market for me going to look like? When will the entire economy open back up? What does it look like for me, even myself? Early on, when we started in the pandemic in March, it was a challenge for me to go to Wegmans, to the grocery store. Why? Because all of the uncertainty and all the fear that was associated with COVID-19 and how do you contract it. So, Angela, you are definitely correct in terms of increased stress and increased fear and how that can impact us. And that looks different for every person. That's important to say that anxiety can look different for every person.
Good. Here's a comment from Curtis. Hey, Curtis. Give a shout out to Curtis in North Carolina. I've known Curtis for years. Curtis says, I like to focus on what I have versus what I don't have. Attitude of gratitude mindset. I have to actively focus on it. What are your thoughts on that, Steph?
Curtis, you are spot on, right? So many of my clients that I um, engage with on a professional level and are struggling with depression, we talk about gratitude. Gratitude to the point of even, one of my recommendations for them may be keeping a gratitude journal because it is so easy to focus on what we don't have or negative self-talk is what we call that, right? As opposed to what we do have and how fortunate we are, how blessed we are, as opposed to what we don't see. And so that can have a significant positive impact on individuals that may be struggling with depression.
Okay, great. Again, I'm talking to Stephanie Jackman. If you have some questions for her or any comments, drop them in the comments field and we will get them answered. Now, let's talk about what you're seeing. And you don't have to, if this is something that you don't want to answer, that's fine. I know what your with you and your clients are confidential, but what are some of the trends that you're seeing in your private practice?
Um, so again, without breaking confidentiality, the general trends, Pat, would be particularly in the Rochester area, right? So I do have some clients that are kind of spread out all over New York State, but particularly now in the Rochester area, having a lot of clients that are really struggling with trauma and considering the local culture and the local climate that we're unfortunately in right now in Rochester, with some of the race relations piece, and even on a national level, I am seeing a lot of individuals that are struggling with trauma. And one thing that I would say about the trends and the unfortunate aspects of trauma is, from my practice, my thought and my practice with my clients is that everyone that I interact with has experienced some type of trauma. It certainly may be different, but some type of trauma. So that could be from childhood, and that could be something as a child we experienced the divorce or the separation of our parents, all the way up to the trauma of living within the midst of a pandemic and the recent loss of our job, or the possibility of foreclosing on our home and what that's going to look like for our family, what that's going to look like for our kids. And so as a result of that as well, again, a lot of individuals struggling with increased symptoms of depression and anxiety.
Okay. Now, next question for you. Is there a difference when we say self-care between men and women? And if so, what are the differences?
Well, in general, there is no one size fits all for a self-care plan, right? So each individual person's self-care plan could look different. But
Okay.
what I would say as it pertains to gender is, typically, I don't want to say all, but typically, a lot of men may struggle with vulnerabilities in terms of self care, and if the need arises, to ask for help.
Got
And
it.
when I say ask for help, I mean in terms of, if the need arises, to seek out a licensed therapist or licensed counselor, right? Wherein most women, they're fine with needing someone to talk to outside of a girlfriend, right? Seeking that professional help, ensuring that they get the support that they need. Women are a little bit more apt to take advantage of that opportunity or
Mhm.
that resource. In addition to that, most women really don't mind talking about their feelings and talking about things that they may be struggling with.
Good.
So that's what I see in terms of the difference with men and women. But there really is not a difference, and I just want to emphasize, there's not a difference in terms of what one's self-care plan can look like, right? Because each individual person can look different and be unique to them.
Okay. Good. Here's another question from Angela. Angela's on fire today. Angela says, do you recommend limiting the amount of time spent watching the news to help mitigate the constant bombardment of negative news?
Absolutely. Absolutely, Angela. I cannot emphasize that enough, right? So I was having a conversation with a client, and they were talking about the amount of news, local news, that they were consuming. Now, the difference with trauma is one of the key differences for trauma is the proximity in terms of how close you are to the trauma and the impact that that can personally have on you. So, as Angela stated, when we're spending a lot of time here locally in the Rochester area watching the news, it has a significant impact on us, which is different than, say, your colleague Curtis, who's
Hmm.
in Carolina. Why? Because when we watch the news locally Rochester and look at some of the things that are going on here locally in our area, we can identify with buildings that we see.
Hmm.
We can identify with the news reporters that are actually locally um, expressing and commentating the news for us. We can identify with individuals that we may see in the crowds or see in protests, or individuals that may be walking by, or we might even have to go down that particular street in order to be able to get home or get to work. So when it comes to watching a lot of the news and being bombarded with different images, no matter which area that you're in and no matter what the situation or the circumstance may be on the news, I would highly recommend that you limit consumption of that. Again, it goes back to what we're putting in, right, can definitely have an impact on what comes out.
Sure, sure. Okay. So if you have any other questions or comments for Steph, feel free to drop them into the comments field, and we'll make sure that she answers some of those questions that you may have. And Steph, let's look at, so we look at an individual self-care plan and the impact that is having, or the negativity or whatever trauma is having on us individually, uh, locally. But let's look at it now from a national and international perspective. What's going on there as far as impact on our self-care, the national things that are happening globally?
Sure. So again, there's not a one size fit all, right? But we all, no matter where we are, whatever geographical location we are, life as we knew it to be has kind of stopped and been put on pause,
Hmm.
right? And so it's really important at this particular point, and I can't emphasize that enough, to where no matter where you are and what geographical location that you may be watching from tonight, um, that you implement your own individualized self care plan, right? So if something is going on with you, something may be different, right? You're not able to sleep. You may be feeling a little bit more irritable. You may be gaining more weight than actually the food consumption that you're taking in. You may be losing weight.
Mm.
The first thing that I would also say for individuals, again, no matter where you are, is you want to have regular and annual physicals. Because if there is something going on with you physically, you want to be able to see your primary care physician and allow them to rule out anything that may be going on with you physically. And then they'll then begin to make an assessment or an evaluation and have some conversations with you during that same physical appointment regarding your stress level.
Got it. Okay. So we have about maybe 5 or 6 minutes left. What are some of the tips that you can give our viewers as it relates to self-care?
Sure. So again, I spoke about nutrition.
Mhm.
I spoke about sleep, exercise, limiting the consumption of alcohol, leisure activities, healthy relationships, regular annual checkups. Again, your spirituality, right? So that's a key piece. What is your spirituality? What does your spiritual life look like? And again, any medications that you have been prescribed by your physician or your psychiatrist or nurse practitioner, be sure to follow up and take those as prescribed. And then in the event that you need to seek out a licensed mental health provider or counselor, be sure to do that. The other thing that I would say again is there's no one size fit all self-care plan for us. Each individual person is different. And the first thing that I would definitely say is if you don't have a self-care plan, look at how you're coping right now. Are your coping habits, are your self-care habits healthy or unhealthy? Right? So start right there. That's the first place to start. And then look at what you're doing currently regarding your self-care plan, and then take it one step at a time. So if you create a self-care plan, look at it from the standpoint of, okay, I may have missed the mark today, but you always have tomorrow. Each day is always a new day, and it doesn't have to be perfect, right? So we're more so looking from a model of starting a self-care plan, and we're also looking at the model of its progress, not perfection.
Okay. Here's our last question. Any recommendations for senior citizens who are isolated because of COVID-19 that will help keep them from becoming depressed?
Yeah. Again, Angela, that is a great question. And so a couple of things that I would recommend for seniors. And of course, this is all determined based upon where the senior may be living, the mobility of the senior in terms of, accessibility to different areas, right? So one thing that I have recommended to some of my clients and their parents that may be seniors is, again, the traditional drive-bys, right? So if you cannot go into the home or into the nursing homes or the facilities to be able to see our seniors, our loved ones, then certainly you want to be able to do some drive-bys where they may be at home still, and you can see them in the driveway. You can have, again, window visits. If they have the ability to engage with technology, you can maybe do some FaceTimes with them. Definitely, you want to have those phone calls. So again, some of those things may be helpful for some of the seniors. It's really tough with our seniors, though, because they are such a vulnerable population during this time period.
Sure. Okay, we have about a minute left, and this is what we do with our guests. We go into something called rapid fire. This is our rapid fire segment. I'm going to give you a comment or a question, and your response quickly. All right. What is the latest book you've read?
That would be Becoming by Michelle Obama.
Okay. Soda or pop? Which one?
Soda. Pepsi. Soda.
No. What is your favorite food?
That would be pizza and anything chocolate.
Oh, boy. Who is the person that most inspired you?
I just have to limit it to one?
Just one. Okay, I'll give you two.
Okay. That would be my mom and you, Pat.
Okay. Good answer. Good job. Okay. Next one. Your favorite saying or quote?
Come on, Pat.
Okay. Let's move on. Okay, that's your favorite quote or saying. Come on, Pat. Okay, got it. That's
it. Quote unquote. Come on, Pat.
Okay. All right. Whew, boy. Favorite movie?
Can I give you my favorite TV show?
Sure.
Big Brother.
Big Brother. Okay, so we got to get you off quickly because it's coming on now. Favorite musical artist?
My favorite group is Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Okay, good. You are off the hot seat. So as we end, what would you say in terms of your parting words to our viewers?
I cannot emphasize enough the importance of self-care, not just during this time, on a local or national level, but every day. Take that time to invest in yourself, whatever that may look like, because you're worth it. And it's better to start today or tomorrow than not start at all.
Okay, great. That's my alarm saying that we're done. So if you want to get a hold of Steph, her number is right here, 585-937-3212. That's 585-937-3212. Or you can check her online at psychologytoday.com and put her name in, and you will be able to connect with her. Well, Steph, I want to thank you for this time. This is great self-care. I want to thank you for your words of wisdom. You know, you're always teaching me new stuff and exciting stuff. So I want to thank you for taking the time, because I know that this has been a busy time for you. So thank you. And we will see you shortly.
Okay, thanks for having me, Pat.
Okay. All right. So we have just been speaking with Stephanie Jackman. She is the founder and owner of Stephanie Jackman LCSW PLLC. Again, if you want to get a hold of her, her number is 585, her office number, 937-3212. This is the 30 as we end. If you would like to join our community, the 30 is brought to you by the Jackman Group LLC. If you would like to join our community, you simply go to jackmangroupllc.com/subscribe. And we would love to have you join the community. There's some information on there for you to grab, and you'll be eligible for some cool stuff. So make sure that you head over there, jackmangroupllc.com/subscribe, and make sure that you subscribe to our community. Well, that's it for another Thursday. I want to thank you for being our guests on the 30. We'll be back next Thursday. And in the meantime, make sure that you are safe. Make sure that you are healthy. Take care of yourself based on what Steph told us with those tips. I know I'm going to try to get some more sleep, maybe. So on that note, thank you once again. God bless you, and may God bless your family.